Hi, this is Mr. Y. Excuse me. This is a game that I played against my friend Ethan on chesskid.com. Ethan's a fairly strong player, and he's beaten me in the one time that we played over the board, but I'm getting my revenge online. So I had the white pieces. I played the King's Gambit, e4, e5, f4. It's kind of a weird looking move if you're not familiar with the King's Gambit. The idea is that I'm going to give up one pawn for a central control. So now I have control here of the center. And there's lots of other ways of playing that, but that's the basic idea. Ethan decided to decline the pawn. Playing d6, which is unusual. This position has only been reached 3 times in the database that I'm looking at here. But what's interesting is that of those 3 times, the average rating of the players that played this was 25-31, which is like grandmaster level. So this is not a weak move. This is a pretty good position. It's not one that I'm familiar with. But anyway, that's what Ethan played. I played bishop c4, attacking his f7 square in my usual hyper-aggressive style. He played bishop e6, which immediately looked to me like a weird move, because now he's going to have to move this pawn off the f file when I take. I take, he takes back, and that opens up his this diagonal here. You may say that I have my diagonal open as well, and it's true that I do. I did that intentionally. Maybe he did that intentionally too. We'll move on. So I played d4. Probably should have played my knight up here, protecting this square, because I don't want his queen landing there. But I played a d4. And he played his knight out here to c6, attacking that d4 pawn, so I'm going to have to do something to defend it, because it's attacked twice, so I'm going to push it forward and attack the knight. So he takes, and then I take. I'm still attacking the knight, and he has to move the knight away. He chose to move the knight to b4, which I don't think was the best move, because it allows me to attack it with the pawn or this other pawn here. I think better might have been to get a more central square. Granted, then I'm going to still attack it with this pawn, but then he's still got a centralized knight, centralized developed knight. As it played out, I moved my c pawn. I could have also moved my a pawn, but I wanted to get this diagonal open for my queen potentially. And he moved the knight up here, which is really the only square when you think about it. Where else is that knight going to go? He can't go there because of the queen. He can't go there because of the queen. He can't take this pawn because of the queen. He can't go there because of the pawn. He can't go there because of the rook. So there's only one square left. He has to go up there. And now that knight is really badly placed, and I'm kind of happy about that. So I played knight f3 finally. He played knight f6. Attacking my central pawn, I suppose, or just developing. So I wanted to get my rook onto this file. I would castle, get my rook onto this file, but I decided I wanted to make sure that this was open when I did that. I suppose it didn't really matter. I took here, and then he took back, and then I castled. I could have done the move order the other way around as well. But now I like the fact that he has an isolated pawn here. That's a weakness that I'm going to be able to exploit. Isolated pawns can only be defended by pieces. So if you start piling up on him, then his pieces will get occupied. So I played bishop c5. Oh, he played bishop c5, check. Developing the piece with check, that's pretty reasonable. I can't do anything about it except move out of the way. Or I suppose I could lose a piece. Knight g4 he played. So he's going on the attack. He's attacking this square. I suppose he's hoping to come down here with the knight. I move over, and then he moves the knight away. Oh, then he takes the queen. He's hoping to take the queen or something. So I'm going to have to take. And he takes. Yeah, so he's hoping to win a rook for a knight. That's what he's after here. So I played queen e2 to protect the square. And he played queen takes d5. He just took my pawn. Now I undefended it when I moved my queen. So I decided to hit the queen c4, or pawn c4 rather. So he moves back, queen d6. Knight g5 I played. Oh, so this was a my idea here. Now that the queen is on this square, let's see if you can spot this. Well, I'm sort of already given it away. Queen's on this square, so look at this. If I can get my knight here, then I've got a fork on his pieces, and it's supported by this rook, right? So if I can get, so what I'm going to do is move the knight here, threatening that, and I'm also threatening to take his knight. So he has to defend both of those, and he finds a way, which I didn't see actually when I made this move. I didn't see his defense, which was just to bring the knight up here to h6. For some reason, I was blind to that move. So I played bishop f4. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. So now this pawn is pinned, right? So he can't move the pawn because it's pinned. So I just put another attacker on it, even though it looks like this can just be taken. It can't. So he defends. Bishop d4. Actually, he had a better move here, which I didn't see, and he didn't see either, thankfully. Castling. Okay, that gets the pawn unpinned. Now the pawn is no longer pinned, and he's got an attacker on this bishop, not to mention this rook. So if I go ahead and take the pawn, which looks kind of tempting, then he just takes back with the queen. And then you think, well, that loses a queen, doesn't it? Well, no, because this is checkmate. So thankfully he didn't spot that. It's not a forced mate or anything. Let's see, what would I do if he played castle? What would be my best move? The computer says knight e4, which I'm not understanding. Oh, that's attacks to queen. Okay, so that gains me a tempo to move the bishop out of the way. Queen c6, say, and then I take this bishop away, and then knight takes. Now my bishop is still hanging, so I have to protect it by exchanging off. This doesn't look so bad for me, now that I look at it. But that's kind of deep. Anyway, so he protected the pawn by moving this bishop. So now he's got two defenders on it. I've got two attackers on it, so it's kind of in stasis. What did I play here? I played knight c3, just developing another piece. Didn't really have any obvious plans. The thought was that if he takes here, then I take back, and now I've got two attackers on this. So I figured the knight was perfectly safe to come out here. And then he castled along, getting another rook into the game, getting a battery on this bishop. So I played knight b5. Knight b5. So now I'm going to attack his queen, start kicking his queen around, because the queen is kind of awkwardly placed. In general, these two squares here for the white queen and these two squares here, go ahead and mark them. These two squares for the black queen and these two squares for the white queen are not so good for the queen. It just tends to get kicked around a lot. I've just started noticing that. There's probably a reason for it. So he goes to queen c5, moving his queen out of the way, and then I attack it again with knight e6. So I've got both my knights going after his queen. Then he goes queen b6. And then I'm thinking, oh, good, look at this, look at this, look at this. I've got a fork on his king and his queen, and I'm about to win his queen. I'm doing a little happy dance, and I just completely missed this bishop. So I could have actually still done this if I had noticed the bishop. This works, right? I can just take this, right? And then he captures back maybe with the pawn, or maybe with the rook, because now I've still got my bishop hanging here. And I take this, right? Now he has to move the king somewhere. And now I take the queen. So, but I didn't spot that. Didn't spot that. So I just took with the knight, forking him, and he took back with the bishop. So now, go back here. I'm sorry, I missed something. When I moved this knight here, not only was I attacking the queen, right, I was also attacking the rook. So I think even when he went here, I think I still could have taken the rook. The knight takes d8 would have been better than taking the pawn and losing the knight. Yeah, that would have been... Rook takes d8. Bishop takes e5. Then I take the pawn. So anyway, I didn't do that. I tried to fork the king and the queen. I was being clever, and I just blew it. So I took his rook, and he took back my knight. So now I took the pawn finally. Rook g8. His pawn is under attack, so he has to defend it somehow. Bishop g5 check. So I'm looking at... This is starting to look really good for me. I've got these big open files here coming up the middle. I'm going to have all three of my heavy pieces on them very soon. I'm just going to gain a little tempo here. Getting this bishop out of the way for the moment. King c8. Now the king has only two places to go. If the king goes here, then I'm looking at something like this, gaining another tempo, and then not exactly sure. Queen takes g7. Queen takes... Okay, never mind. So I'm looking at some strong attack here. But instead, he... rather than coming forward, he went back behind the pawns. So I still bring my rook here to cap off this file, so he can't move the king out of there. Now it's stuck behind these pawns. He's going to have to push this pawn forward to get himself some space to breathe. So I bring in knight g. He brings knight g4. Where's g4? He's attacking my queen. And then I find this beautiful move here. Queen takes g7. Why is that beautiful? Well, if he takes my queen, then I have checkmate. See that? So he can't take. And I'm thinking that I might also be able to win the knight somehow. I haven't quite figured it out yet. But I'm liking this position a lot. I like taking the pawn and hanging my queen like that. So he does knight takes knight f2 check. And I just take back. Now I've got two pieces hanging because he's got the bishop rather, still attacking this rook, and the rook attacking my queen. If he takes the rook, then I have checkmate. If he takes the queen, then I have checkmate. So he doesn't take either one of them. What does he do? He plays b6, giving himself some breathing room. I think he should have played b5. I think b5 is better, because that leaves the attack on the rook. Then I have this. Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. Okay, so he played that. So I went ahead and took this rook with check. He plays king b7. Other alternative, of course, is to put the queen there and lose the queen. So he goes king b7, queen d5. Well, I have a few options here. I was looking at this move for a while, and I realized it's just not going to work. So I decided I'm just going to simplify matters, get both the queens off the board. He plays b5 now, perhaps a move too late. I took his queen. He took my queen. So now things are looking pretty good for me. rook f6 check. And now he could go here, king c5, but then I have bishop e3 check, and the only place for the king to go is here, and that loses a bishop. So rather than lose the bishop, when I went here, he went back up to b7. So now I took the pawn, hitting his knight. Finally, the knight moves. Remember when that knight moved back there, way back in the beginning of the game? That was like 25 moves ago. So he brings his knight out, attacking this pawn. I don't really care about that pawn, so I'm going to continue my attack here through the pawn. I'm attacking the king. If he, well, he can't move the pawn, obviously. So knight takes a2, takes my pawn. Rook takes h7. Bishop d4. Attacking my rook. So I have to move it. I move it here, giving me a second attacker on this pawn. So now we've got 1, 2 attackers on the pawn, and he's only got the king defending it. So he's got to defend it somehow, so he goes to bishop e5. And I'm determined to get that bishop off that diagonal. So I'm going to go to bishop f6. And if he takes now, then I take this, and I've got checkmate to follow. So I go there, so he backs up his bishop, or moves forward his bishop, I guess, for him. I played a g3, still trying to get his bishop off the diagonal, and finally the bishop goes off the diagonal to e3. So now I take the pawn. That was what I was after all along. Well, actually, I'm after this mating net going on here. So he's got to move the king out. Doesn't really matter where he goes. If he goes back here, then I've got rook h7. And then I guess he'll go here. And then I'll go there, and then he'll have to go back there, and then I'll have checkmate, right? So it doesn't really matter. He, instead of choosing a8, he chooses b8. Now I do this nice little maneuver here, attacking the king through the rook, so that even if I move one of these, he still can't take it, or if I move one away, then I'll have check. So he moves knight b4, attacking my rook, but it doesn't matter because I have check from the bishop, and he has to move. The only square he can go to is there, and that's checkmate. So where did it go wrong? Where did it go wrong? Where did it go wrong? Well, I think it went wrong back here, all the way back here. I should have gone the fast way. When he got his queen onto this square. Well, maybe a move later. I move the knight out. Yeah, there we go. Now I'm attacking this. And yeah, that was probably the mistake. Probably he needed to go to g6 with his queen. Get it out of the middle of the board like that, where my knights are really active. It's interesting how my knights here are one square in from the edge, and his knights are on the edge, and my knights are so much more powerful because I have control of these squares in here. Whereas his can't reach that far. So here I attack his queen again, and this really should have lost the queen, but I made the mistake. I should have taken this rather than the going for the fork immediately. Now I have a fork. But instead I made a mistake, and he took my knight. So now I take the rook. So now the game looks pretty even again. So where was the next mistake? Yeah, probably not moving this pawn sooner. Here or here. Getting rid of all my back rank tactics that happened here. Because then once he did that, now I've got the queen sack that would win the game, and didn't happen. All right, so I've been talking for too long. This has been 20 minutes. Go play some chess. I enjoyed this game, Ethan. Thanks a lot for the game. We'll play again soon. Bye-bye.